Hey folks, this clip is brought to you by the fastest growing sports book in Tennessee, Zen Sports. Enter code A to Z TN, ATOZ TN to earn a welcome bonus that gives you 5% cash back on your total betting volume for your first 15 days of betting. That is Zen Sports.
Something that I think a lot of people wanted, but probably weren't betting on, speaking of Zen Sports, was Kellie Harper being fired. I was one that if you had asked me over under of one Kellie Harper firings this offseason, I would have said under, because I didn't think they were really going to do it. Historically, at Tennessee, there has been just in every sport, kind of this, wait till it's too late. Just give somebody way too much time. It was already over and you knew it. We should have ended this a year ago. A lot of that in the past. And we haven't gotten to see a lot of Danny White in that particular situation.
Thank goodness.
Yes, for sure. A lot of sports have been going awesome under Danny White. But here's the thing. It appears Danny White don't play that. He is cutting this off at the pass. And he said, second round exit is not good enough. When you have the statue of Pat Summitt outside of Thompson Bowling Arena and a coach who all but, I don't want to say invented the game, but invented it in terms of the modern sense almost, was there the entire time in the rise of women's basketball, and you have that figure in your history. It's just, yes, you've made it to every single NCAA tournament ever. Oh, and Kellie didn't miss one. Played in an SEC championship game, didn't win it, but played in one. Almost beat South Carolina. A lot of the hanging on to Kellie fans brought that one up. Oh, they played South Carolina so close. Yeah, that's great. You didn't win, and yeah, I mean, Danny was not the AD that hired her. I think ultimately, I obviously appreciate Kellie Harper a lot because, formerly Kelly Jolly, she was an amazing player for Tennessee on some of the best teams that Pat Summitt ever had. Multiple national championships as a player.
Three.
She was
three, I think, right?
Yes, I believe that is correct. One of the best to ever do it at Tennessee, and an incredible figure that it was very cool to see come back to Tennessee. But ultimately, I think it was a little bit of a lazy hire by Phil Fulmer. She was there, had taken Missouri State back to an NCAA tournament, and he just kind of said, yeah, let's hire Kellie, even if she's not the absolute best for the job, because you also had like Vic Schaefer at Mississippi State on the table then. Now, it made sense for him to go back to Texas because he's a Texas guy. There's a lot to talk about there. But when it comes to this hire now, it makes complete sense to me. And you and me both advocated for this weeks ago, actually. And now it finally has come to fruition. And I think it makes complete sense. Well, yeah, let's start there. What did you think of the firing, Zach?
Yeah, I said earlier, I was surprised because I didn't think it was actually going to happen either. They lost their last game a week ago. It happened today, we know, because the buyout dropped basically by half, pretty much. She's owed 50%, I believe, of what she was owed through the end of her contract, whereas she just fired last week. She's owed 100% of what she was owed through end of 2027 or something like that. So financially, if you're going to do it, it had to be today. And I also thought it was interesting that it was today because you've got the biggest women's college basketball game of the year happening right now with Iowa and LSU. And you've got all this hype around Iowa and Caitlin Clark and LSU and South Carolina basketball. And Tennessee's just not in that picture at all. And we've said this countless times. No one's expecting this program to go back to what it was when Pat Summitt was in charge. I don't think there's anybody on this planet that can get the program to that. She was that special of a person, of a coach. We know it. You don't put statues up of Pat Summitt for no reason. But being in the conversation, being in the mix, that's really, I think, all you need. Yeah, the ceiling for this program is always going to be a national championship. Whoever is hired has to be able to get Tennessee back to that point, not asking them to reel off, multiple championships in a row, but be there, be in a Final Four, be in a marquee game on a Monday night that everybody wants to watch. I mean, this Iowa LSU game has been so hyped, and it just feels so weird that the Lady Vols have just kind of went by the wayside since 2012. It seems like when Pat Summitt stepped down, they just haven't really been feared. They haven't been a factor nationally. That's the part that when you see baseball doing well, you see football doing well, you see basketball make it, to an Elite Eight, almost to a Final Four, softball doing well. All these things are doing, sports at Tennessee are doing so well, and the Lady Vols are just kind of stuck in neutral. They're stuck in mediocrity. They're not terrible, but they're not elite. They're not championship contenders. They're not getting past the Sweet 16. They're not making it past the second round this season. They're not able to finish off an upset against South Carolina when they should have won that game. I mean, just those things, it all adds up. It's like it could not continue on. And I don't know what the right answer is. I think you got to trust Danny White on this. He has a really good history when it comes to hiring coaches. The Josh Heupel hire has worked out better than anyone would have imagined. He made good hires at UCF and at Buffalo. It's what he does. He identifies talented coaches who know how to win, who fit a culture, who fit a program, who fit what Tennessee's doing right now, who can fit in with Heupel and Barnes and Vitello and kind of the vibe that you got going on here at Tennessee. I trust that he's going to make a good hire. Now, I don't know if it'll work out. There's no guarantees, right? But I think he's going to go out and try to find somebody dynamic that can breathe some life into this program and bring some excitement back to the Lady Vols name, because it's ultimately what everybody wants. It's just be relevant, just be there, just be in those big games. That's what we've been missing.
For sure. It has just not been enough. We said it.
It's football season, and it's time to switch to Zen Sports, the fastest growing sports book in Tennessee, changing the bonus game with their cash rewards program. When you sign up for Zen Sports with code A2ZTN, ATOZTN, earn a welcome bonus that gives you 5% cash back on your total betting volume for your first 15 days of betting. And if you have friends who bet on sports, share your Zen Sports referral bonus code with them, and you will earn 3% of their betting volume for their first 6 months of betting on Zen Sports with no cap on how much you can earn. So what are you waiting for? Stop wasting time and money on other sports books when you could be earning real cash rewards with Zen Sports. Download today on the App Store at ZenSports.com. And your wallet will thank you later. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older in Tennessee to bet. That is Zen Sports. Go download it now.
In weeks past, we don't need you to be Pat because you can't be Pat.
And that's going to be tough if you're Kellie Harper and you played under her, and that's what you know. That is who you are as a person. It's like the Nick Saban syndrome and how so many of those coaches have struggled.
It's got to be incredibly frustrating. But ultimately, you just have to face facts that's just not good enough for the standard of that program. And that it's kind of that simple. That's really the beginning and the end of it, ultimately. But now, well, let's talk about some of the potential hires here. I'm not going to act like I'm an expert in who could be hired as Tennessee's next head coach.
Yeah, who would you want to see?
The one that makes the most sense that you're going to see get brought up a lot is Wes Moore from NC State. They are in the Final Four right now. He's had a phenomenal season. He's had a phenomenal career. The guy's won like 800 games in his career. He is an alum of Tennessee and Johnson Bible College. Ironically, I looked this up this afternoon, actually. He coached at Chattanooga for Ferrari. He's very, and he coached at Maryville College for a really long time out in Blount County. And, he's just really familiar with East Tennessee. And then he's at NC State. He's been very successful, a bunch of Sweet 16s, finally a Final Four and an Elite Eight in the last 2 years. Had a ridiculously good season last year, it's 2 years ago, 32-4 2 years ago, and then 31-6 this season. They finally made the Final Four. But that's the one I think you're going to see get brought up. The problem there is that he's 66 years old. Mm-hmm. You're gonna be just pushing the fact that he's a little too old to be there for very long. But I don't know what you do from here. I've seen a lot of people with the Grand Canyon coach. No offense to her, you're better than the Grand
Yeah, I
Canyon
haven't
coach.
understood the resume there. There's nothing exciting about the resume, and especially if you're moving on from Kellie Harper, when her resume, when she was hired at Tennessee, was less than stellar.
No doubt. So other than that, you're not going to make a run at Don Staley as much as, I mean, as I said before, you got to maybe knock on that door at least.
Hey,
See.
you interested?
Yeah.
Maybe work
But
something out.
the one that gets brought up, Chris says here, Kara Lawson. No.
She said
No.
I had up and down, right? I mean,
Yeah. No more former Lady Vols unless they've reached a bunch of Final Fours and
I know that the whole alumni thing always is popular, but at this point, have we not learned our lesson on that? I mean, yes, it worked out with Philip Fulmer. Lady Vols, it hasn't really worked out. I mean, there's like when T. Martin was brought up to be the head coach at Tennessee during the 2017 search. I love T. Martin, but he has no experience, and just as a head coach, really barely had experience at that time as an offensive coordinator at USC, and things weren't going great there at the time. You can't hire somebody just because they graduate from Tennessee. Like that doesn't guarantee anything. And at this point, we're just interested in wins, right? Like whoever can get the job done. I don't care if Josh Heupel went to Oklahoma. I don't care that Tony Vitello went to Missouri. Like none of that matters.
I graduated from Tennessee. And
you want the job?
Exactly. It does, to me, that just doesn't matter. So I dig deeper. Like I said, I think Wes Moore is the one you're going to get brought up a lot. Is that ultimately it because he's so old? I'm not sure, but you got it.
Doesn't seem like a Danny White hire, really.
No, he has historically gone for up and comers, tried to make kind of the intelligent, like I'm smartest man in the room kind of hires, and it's worked out for him, no doubt. He gave Nate Oates his first big time job at Buffalo, and Nate Oates is in the Final Four. So there's history there that he can be good at this. Kara Lawson, I mean, her best season was 26-7. Her best finish in the NCAA tournament, Sweet 16 this year.
Yeah. What are you gaining?
Nothing, because that's exactly what it was for Kellie Harper. Now, do with all of that what you will, because I just am not sure where they go at all here for Danny White, because women's basketball is just not the same as men's because there's a bigger difference between the top teams. There's not as much of a middle ground and a lot of up and comers like there is in men's college basketball. There's just a bigger span there between the two. Not sure where he goes. Very, very interested to see, for obvious reasons. I mean, it is one of the most important programs here. And does he spend money? That's a huge question.
Does he? I mean, he could set a new trend of throwing some money and with all the money in college athletics, I know it's not a big revenue driver, but at the same time, there's so much money flowing through just various channels at this point. Make a lucrative offer. Tennessee is a much more attractive place to coach. Take the Lady Vols brand out of it in general and that aspect of it. The job, even without that, is more attractive just because of the success that everything else is having. The renovations, the money that's being pumped in to facilities right now. Danny White's not just sitting back, kind of being reactive to anything. He's been very proactive in everything he's done since he landed at Tennessee in 2021. That's got to be attractive to, you talked about the alignment between administration and coaches, and it's kind of a cliche line that everybody says when they take a new job, but it really is. It's super important to people when they take these jobs. It's not, I've said this all the time, it's not a Wikipedia page where you just pick and choose and place people where you want them because they were coached here or coached there. Like they're real humans. They have to interact with staff, administration every single day, and it's their workplace. And you have to be in a place that you like going to, and that's really the only way you're going to have success. We've seen the alternative when it's not aligned and how disastrous that can be. Went through a decade of it that's not the case anymore. So I think on that aspect, it's going to be easier to hire somebody this time around than it was when, when Kelly replaced Holly.
It does. I don't know. I just excited really is the right word though. Not to. I don't want to make it sound like I'm dancing over the fact that Kelly got fired. In fact, I want to say respect to her, and she's been a great ambassador for the program, and we appreciate that. But Danny White has a nice history of coaching hires. Obviously, I'm excited to see what he can do because it's a very unique hire. It's a very serious hire here, and it's one that also you're not sure if they're going to shell out a bunch of money. It's a lot of different factors there. It'll be very, very interesting, and we'll obviously keep tabs on it.
He gets to do his whole thing that he loves to do when he shrouds his search in secrecy and throws out a few smoke screens here and there. He even said that in his statement that he released today. Like, you will not hear from me until the hire is made, and I think that's an aspect that I think all athletic directors like that. To be honest, we saw it with John Curry. He just wasn't very good at it because he's meeting Mike Leach by a pond and people see him. But Danny White gets to go down that road again. I think he gets fired up to do that kind of stuff and kind of throw people curveballs here and there.